taking this quite well.
I'll kill you! I'll kill all of you! So let's talk Anthem, shall we? I was fortunate enough to get in on the demo this weekend, when I could connect, that is, because it took me a good 2.5 hours to even log into the login servers. Now, I know it was popular, and there were a lot of people trying to log in, and a lot of people trying to download this demo. But you would think that EA, being as massive as they are, and BioWare, being as massive as they are, would have taken some of this into consideration. But they didn't, and that's more of a rookie mistake. It's not something you expect from a major publisher like EA or a developer like BioWare. At least, you shouldn't. But I think anybody who considers himself a gamer in today's age, we're sadly catching on. My very first experience was walking around in the city, and it kind of felt like I was slogging through mud the entire time. It was a very clanky walking system when you're not in your javelin. Sorry, we're all about original ideas over here at EA and BioWare. But that wasn't the only thing that initially hit me really hard. The other thing that really stuck out was I was having really weird FPS issues. Now, I have a beast of a machine. Let's not get hung up on the specs, but let's just say it's a very powerful machine for today's day and age. And I would average about 200 FPS in most top-tier games today. However, in-game, I was averaging about 45 frames per second. It dipped to about 30 some odd, but that was usually in the main city. It didn't really happen out in the game world. And these weird FPS issues seemed to go away when I tried to minimize the game, but the game didn't minimize. It just full screen. I tried that multiple times. And when I eventually came back into the game and paid attention to my FPS counter, sure enough, it was hanging steady at about 90. It was really weird, but it was also kind of cool because I found a fix to something that I didn't even really know was a problem. The demo takes you from level 10 to level 15. And from level 10 to level 15, it really didn't take that long to level up. So the first thing you do once you get over the hurdle of logging in is you look at your wrist. I don't know, it doesn't explain what's this thing on my wrist. I don't know. Does BioWare even know? Or is it just fancy schmancy jewelry? The game has you follow some quest icons to talk to some dude, and you get the quest, and then obviously you're ready to go launch out into the world. At least they didn't fuck up those elements. So I get to my javelin, and at this point, they don't let you customize anything. It's just sort of jump in and try to get this mission done. Not really expecting them to hold my hand at this point. I was at a loading screen for about 20 minutes when I launched the first mission, and I said, fuck this, and I Alt F4'd. I logged into the game, and it seemed to go a lot quicker this time. Maybe it's because I was already connected previously, and it's got that sort of safety net, which I guess would be the first good point about the game, maybe? But I came back into the game, and the quest had been completed. I never even launched my javelin, never mind did a quest. Kind of weird, I just sort of rolled with it. The second mission went rather fine. And then once again, in the last mission, when I went to go hand it in, I talked to the guy, and it just immediately froze. The cutscene froze. So I just escaped out of it and went on my way. Because it only gives you the 3 story missions, and then you're left to either do free play or stronghold. Free play is pretty self-explanatory. You go out into the map, there's enemies, there's mini events, there's resources to harvest, materials to pick up, and good God, there are quest NPCs and NPCs who lead you through the events. Hello, Bethesda! There is kind of a world to discover. I found a few lore notes. And the second good part that I wanted to bring up was that when you pick up one of these lore markers, it expands your map and gives it a little bit more depth, which is a little bit more than some games give you when you get a lore item. I mean, we all know most of the time you just kind of get some text in a menu somewhere and it doesn't really do much for your experience other than that. Which kind of leads us to Stronghold. In the free play map, there are, I guess you could call them dungeons. They're holes in the world that you go through and you get a loading screen and you're in a new zone. Stronghold immediately puts you into that zone from the main city. The Stronghold scenario seems like it might be a replay of a mission that we didn't get with the demo. It's hard to tell because, again, it is only the demo, and so as I said, Stronghold is a scenario with clear laid out objectives, there's loot, eventually you fight this boss, there's more loot, Then the stronghold ends, you go to a post-mission screen, and then you go back to town. Moving on, I wanted to talk about gameplay and two major factors in the gameplay, both with movement and the gunplay itself. The movement was really weird. Took some getting used to, but in the end I still hated it. Like I said, walking in the city was really weird. There's no run, you kind of sound like you're 400 pounds waddling through the streets, and it's really janky, you feel heavy, you get stuck on all sorts of shit. It just isn't natural or fluid with how a human being walks. When you're in your javelin, running and jumping is kind of cool, kind of neat, kind of feels like Warframe. The flight and hover system is new. It's really janky. I had the hardest time directing myself while I was flying. Like the mouse, even the slightest movement was like sending me off on like a hard 90-degree bank or something. And it was really, really bad. Yes, I did go into the settings. I did turn it like all the way down, but it was still just bad. Could not stand the flight system. I think they were trying to deliver a "this is what Iron Man feels like" kind of bullshit.
I am Iron Man.
And holy shit, the underwater controls were the worst of them all. Overall, the controls are garbage, but underwater is the worst thing I have ever played in my life. The hover system is just that. You hover midair, you don't have much control, you can move around. It's more of a tactical option at your disposal. Both of those abilities rely on a heat resource, which is kind of dumb. At this point, with my disdain for the flight system as a whole, I don't understand it, I don't care.
Feeling fine. Wow, that's a relief.
I had a lot of trouble with the gunplay in this game. They were just your average first-person shooter guns. There's nothing special here. Aiming was a bloody nightmare. In a super-powered, super-strong javelin, you would assume that some pistol or even a automatic rifle wouldn't give you the amount of kickback that these guns were giving. The second you squeeze that trigger and the first round pops off, your gun flinches like crazy. Shooting was terrible. It was hard to hit targets. The only time I had successful and accurate shooting was when I was using downscope on a sniper rifle, which, by the way, is the only way you can use certain rifles is when you aim downscope. You couldn't fire some guns like the sniper rifle from the hip. Another terrible aspect of the gameplay was the clipping on some objects was so bad that sometimes you'd be getting clean line of sight to the enemy you're trying to hit, but instead you're hitting some invisible wall. And at other times, I was getting shot through walls and fucking rocks and pillars and all sorts of nonsense. In a game that's supposed to be about shooting, they failed at making a fucking shooter. To me, that's the most egregious part of all. You made a shooter in which the shooting sucks and is barely playable. And you're 4 weeks from fucking launch. What the fuck is wrong with you? As of recording this video, in my game I had access to 2 of the javelins, the Scout Javelin and the Medium Javelin. Both abilities were really weak. They didn't look like much. They didn't feel special. Nothing felt too original. One had grenades and rockets and the other one had fucking ninja stars. Whoop-de-fuck.
I protest. I am not a merry man.
The graphics overall were meh. I've seen better. I've seen worse. They weren't anything special. In fact, I think a lot of the assets and models were very derivative of other video games, and that's just sad. Really, really sad. No originality, no thought, no love. There's just no emotion, no love, no care in the construction of this game and its assets. In the city, the models for the characters looked really weird. They were all skittish and tweaky, and more than one I recall had 2 lazy eyes. It is quite clear that BioWare and EA's apathy towards the suckling shit show that was Andromeda is carrying over to Anthem and possibly future product. Is this what we're supposed to expect from the next Dragon Age? At least EA and BioWare did us a solid by releasing this demo so we could see just how this dumpster fire rivals Dante's fucking Inferno. And last but not least, the sound. It too was unimaginative. I mean, a rocket sounds like a rocket. The NPC sounded weird too. I don't know if it was because of the interaction with the character model and the sound, but it just culminated in this totally inorganic, twitchy mess.
My name's Amal, and I'm your bartender. Freelancer.
Nice to meet you.
Did you recognize my voice when I said freelancer?
Was I supposed to?
Well, I was in season 1 of Dawn Guard, so I thought you might.
Really?
I didn't even know there was comms to talk to teammates until halfway through my play. You have to, of course, manually go into the settings and manually turn it on. And there's no text. None. You can't help someone who might not have the mic turned on or know of the comms existence like I didn't until it's too late.
I am too smart. I am too smart. I am too smart.
I give up. I think I'm done. I cannot abide the diuretic deluges of dumbassery and downs that pass for video games these days. Like Anthem. This video has got me so fucking riled up I have to go punch a small child in the face.
They all must die.
That is how the Klingon lures a mate.